Hello friends of the French Foreign Legion, I am greeting you. Today I will tell you something about my life after the French Foreign Legion, and I always call it French Foreign Legion's collateral damage. Collateral damage. I love this word. And I left the French Foreign Legion after 17 years duty, the 4th of February 2002. And I remember very well, it was at afternoon, it was already dark outside, and suddenly I stood outside of the Quartier Vienneau in Aubagne with a bag in my hand, wearing my uniform, and it was over. It was done. I was out. Yeah. But at this moment, I didn't know that you can leave the French Foreign Legion, but the French Foreign Legion will never leave you. This was not in my spirit. In my spirit, it was game over. I'm out. So I was really kind of confused, And in my right hand, I remember very well, I was standing there looking from outside, inside the French Foreign Legion at the Quartier Vienneau. I was almost crying, Can you imagine? And it was kind of curious. I had just a small bag with me, and in this bag was everything I had. In this bag was my life, was in there, And suddenly I turned around and I went by feet to Aubagne, to the next train station, and I took the first train direction Germany. Over, game over. I was out. And in Germany, I arrived one day later, and I settled down in Würzburg, close to Würzburg, with a girlfriend who would be then my future spouse. And what happened afterwards? Firstly, the French Foreign Legion paid my wage 6 months more. So I went out in February, and the French Foreign Legion paid my last wage as an adjutant. I was adjutant for 6 months until October 2002. And at the same time, I took a training course, and the French Foreign Legion paid for the training course, and I was to be kind of sound and light technician on a small theater in Würzburg called Theater am Neunerplatz. And it was a really curious thing because, imagine it was a theater for kids, for children. And I was there doing lights and sounds for pieces like Guten Tag, kleine Schweinchen. This is a piece, the other piece for kids, for children. And I was laughing because it was great. Yesterday I was with a gun in my hand somewhere in Africa, and today I was doing theater with kids. It was just stunning. And the best of all is that I loved it. I loved this job. Really great. Stunning, So the training course finished in October 2002. The Legion stopped paying my wage, but at the same time they start paying my pension, because after 17 years of French Foreign Legion, you have right to a pension, and in October that was the moment for them to start paying my pension. Two things who were really afraid for me. The first thing is that in September 2002, the same year, I was at home, I was father, I was husband, I was engineer or technician for light and sound. I was a civilian guy, and I heard that my unit, the first company of the 2nd Rep, 2e Régiment étranger du parachutiste, was in operation. We were going to operation to Ivory Coast within the operation Licorne. And I was there like, fuck, impossible, And then the message is coming in. Yeah, war in Ivory Coast. French Foreign Legion is making combats, fightings and all this stuff. And I was at home in Germany and I couldn't believe it, And I was looking at the telephone the whole day. I was hoping that somebody called me and they say, hey, Thomas, come back, we need you. But of course, nobody called me. I was done. It was over. I was out. And I couldn't believe all the Legionnaires I have trained, my brothers, were in Ivory Coast fighting, and I was sitting at home, civilist Thomas Gast. It was a real hard moment for me, yeah? It is September 2002. And another thing is maybe that Vietnam veterans can feel with me, like I felt in this moment, when once my wife sent me to a supermarket, to a near supermarket, and she wanted me to buy dog food, no problem, and she wanted me to buy detergent, for washing the laundry. And I was there, I went into the supermarket, and suddenly I stood in front of the detergents, and it was huge. There were detergents, powder, detergents, liquid, detergents, red, green, blue, yellow, big, small, and I was going crazy. I couldn't believe what I am doing here. Fuck! And I thought about my brothers in arms fighting in Ivory Coast, and I was standing here looking for detergents, and all I wanted was to be back in the Legion, having a rucksack on my back and a parachute on my back. And I was standing here looking at the detergents. Fuck, what I am doing here. It was a real hard moment in my life, in my civil life, after the French Foreign Legion. This was one of the collateral damage. You can imagine? Yeah? Imagine you, Vietnam veteran, spent your whole life in the army. You have been in a crisis area of this earth, in Vietnam, otherwhere, fighting, and suddenly you are at home. Was not easy for me. Okay, so couple of months later, I hired in a security company, German security company called Securitas, close to the Würzburg-Schweinfurt area. And in the security area, there has been the Leighton barracks, and in this Leighton barracks there was the garrison, the quartier of the Big Red One. Big Red One. The Big Red One, United States Army in the area. And Securitas' mission was to make security for the quartier, for the camp, and for the housing area of the Big Red One, the families and all the stuff, making patrols, standing guard, and the entrances and the gates, stuff like this. And this also for me, I was very, very soon, I was supervisor, because they recognized my qualities, of course. But it was also hard for me because yesterday, with the eye back over my shoulder, I worked with professional soldiers, and suddenly I find myself working with teachers, high school teachers, geriatric nurses, vendors, sellers, people like that, who never had a weapon in their hand, and who could not handle the material, We had revolvers, we had weapons, we had ammunition, we had torches, we had whatever, all security stuff, I cannot find the words in English right now. And it was hard. It was hard for me to work with them because all the values a soldier have, they didn't have. And I was, it was a hard moment for me. And I worked for Securitas 1 year. And in 1 year, 1 year after, I remember very well, I was sitting in the kitchen, suddenly the telephone were ringing, and I took my wife took the telephone, and she got pale, and she gave me the telephone, and she said, "Thomas, it's for you." I took the telephone and said, "Yes, Gast." And on the other end, there has been Bernd, who was a former Legionnaire, and he told me, "Thomas, are you free right now? Free to do a security job?" I say, "Yes." And he said, "Okay, so let's go to Iraq. I have a very good job. You will have about $5,000 per day, and it's for 2 weeks. It was close to Christmas. It's for 2 weeks, and we will make security for the itinerary Baghdad airport, Basra." And it was a very dangerous place. I say yes immediately, and then afterwards, when I hook up, I had a lot of trouble with my wife because she didn't want me to go to Iraq. She said it was too dangerous, and I say, "Hey, honey, everything is fine. I know this job. There's no danger." Of course, I was lying, but the problem was resolved after a couple of days later, because Bernd gave me a recall and he told me the mission is annulled. So Iraq for me didn't happen. But 4 months later he called me again, and this is the old network, you know, French Foreign Legionnaires network. It's amazing, yeah. And he called me again and he said, Thomas, would you like to work for us or with us in Saudi Arabia? And we have to keep to providing security for the European Commission in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And I immediately say yes. And this time was the good time. Yeah. So thanks, friends of the French Foreign Legion. This was the first part, collateral damage after my life in the French Foreign Legion, and they will have a second and the third part. I hope you are with me. So stay safe, take it easy, and thanks for giving me your time. Thanks for sharing your time with me. And if you like my clips, do not hesitate to make thumbs up and to subscribe to the channel. They will have a very interesting content in the next weeks and months. Believe me. Bye bye, amitié Legionnaire, yours, Thomas Gast. Bye bye. Yes, interesting content. Saudi Arabia, where we were providing security also for Bill Gates. Yes. Then security in Haiti, in Israel, in Yemen. Security for pirate counter. Piracy. Anti-piracy in the Gulf of Aden, near the coast of Somalia. A lot of interesting stuff. Believe me. Bye bye. Allons, Giron, baisse ton pantalon. Encore un Giron, encore le, dans le trône de l'aumônier. Collateral damage.